Hello friends, Salima here and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about one of the makeup categories where I probably spend most of my money. My entire collection of high-end and luxury satin and glossy lipsticks. And trust me, if you love a good, balmy, juicy lip, you are in the right place. There's just something so effortless and chic about these formulas that I couldn't resist. To keep things super organized and easy to navigate in this video, I have broken down my entire collection into two main categories based on their pigment level. First up, we have our sheer and effortless lipsticks, which have light to medium color payoff. And then we will dive into the bold and beautiful formula, which give you that gorgeous medium to fully opaque pigment. So, if that sounds exciting, grab a drink or a snack and let's get started. All right, let's dive right into our first category, the sheer and effortless lipsticks. And kicking us off in this category, we have the Chanel Rouge Coco Flush lipsticks. If you love a very high shine, glossy lipstick that feels incredibly hydrating on the lips, you will love it. There's almost an effortless glide to this formula, so you can literally just swipe it on and you instantly get a beautiful wash of color. With just one swipe, you get a lovely sheer color payoff, but I can easily build the color up to an almost medium intensity without it ever feeling heavy. There is just one drawback. Even though this formula is thin and lightweight, it's not exactly known for its longevity. There's quite a bit of a transfer, so even if you're just sipping on water, you will notice it comes off. This means I always need to be prepared to touch up more frequently throughout the day, or I will pair it with a lip stain or a lip liner to get a bit more wear time out of it, which is a bit of a bummer sometimes. In fact, this is the reason probably why I recently repurchased one of my absolute favorite shades from this line called Moment. I reach for this color so frequently that I literally just finished up my first tube and immediately bought another one. Chanel describes Moment as a rosewood brown, but on my lips, it definitely leans more towards a beautiful plummy brown. It's not just a typical brown or pinky nude, it has this extra little twist that makes it much more interesting. It's truly my perfect everyday nude lip color with a touch of sophistication. I absolutely love it. So, here's my verdict on the Rouge Coco Flush. If you don't mind those frequent touch ups and you prioritize comfort and shine, then you're going to adore these lipsticks. But if you're looking for better performance in terms of longevity, I do have some comparable formulas that stick around a bit longer. In fact, that brings us to our next one from Nars. These are called the Nars Afterglow Hydrating Lipsticks. First of all, I love this sleek packaging. Because the lipstick bullet is so narrow, it makes for a much more precise application. Now, the shine on these is slightly softer than the Chanel Coco Flushes. However, they're still incredibly hydrating and comfortable to wear. I actually think that the softer shine might be one of the reasons why they don't transfer as much as the Cocoa Flashes. And in my experience, they tend to last a bit longer on the lips. They truly feel super comfortable and nourishing. My favorite shade from this line is called Aragon. Oh my god, this color. It's this burnished red shade, and I adore these types of muted brick red tones. It's the perfect balance for me. It's bold, but in a really subtle, chic way. It's not screaming for attention, it's more like a confident whisper, if that makes sense. Next up, we are talking about a lipstick that feels less like a makeup item and more like a collectible object, the Hermès Rouge Silky Shiny Lipstick. This lipstick arrived in that iconic orange Hermes box nestled inside its own canvas pouch. It made me feel like I am unwrapping a piece of art, not just a lipstick. But beyond that incredible packaging, the main question is, how does it perform? Well, I like to think of this as the perfect hybrid of a lip balm and a lipstick. When I apply it, it's incredibly balmy and hydrating. it just melts onto my lips. You get a beautiful sheer wash of color with just one swipe, but just like some of the other lipsticks in this category, you can easily build it up to a lovely medium intensity. What I really appreciate about this formula is neither the pigment nor the glossiness is over the top. It has a soft sheen and a subtle, buildable color. It really resonates with that overall understated, elegant aesthetic that Hermes is known for. And for a balmy, glossy formula, this one actually has great longevity. I find there's not a lot of transfer, which is fantastic. And I can actually get about 4 to 5 hours of wear without needing to touch up. That's pretty good for this type of product. Now, the big question is it $77 good? In terms of just the product performance, I honestly don't think so. I feel like a significant portion of that price is for the name and that unparalleled brand experience rather than just the lipstick itself. A fantastic and truly comparable formula, in my experience, is the Dior Addict Shine lipstick. And let me tell you, this line has such an extensive shade range, you are bound to find your perfect match. I find these lipsticks to be as hydrating and pigmented as the Hermès Silky Shine lipsticks. However, in my experience, these Dior lipsticks take the gloss factor up a notch. They're even more glossy. If you go in with 2 or 3 swipes, you will not only get a beautiful, rich color payoff, but also an almost wet looking high shine finish, which I absolutely adore. My personal favorite shade is number 100 nude look. When I first saw it, it looked like a standard pinky nude, and I was almost certain it wouldn't work for my skin tone. But it has this incredible brightening effect. It instantly makes my face look so awake and fresh without washing out my complexion. This is definitely another one of those versatile colors that just goes with almost any makeup look you can imagine. Okay, let's move on to two lipsticks that I feel like are quite similar in terms of performance. We are talking about the Gucci Glow and Care Shine lipstick and the Victoria Beckham Beauty Posh lipsticks. Now, I know both of these brands are super well known for their other beauty items, but I actually haven't seen enough people praise their lipstick formulas, and that's a real shame. In my humble opinion, these are truly some of the best balmy, glossy lipsticks out there, and they both offer some really unique colors in their collection. Let's start with the Victoria Beckham Beauty Posh lipstick. I have the shade Pose, and if you're looking for that perfect everyday nude, this might just be it. The brand calls it a mid-tone mauve, and I definitely see that soft mauve. But on my lips, it transforms into this incredibly flattering, rosy mauve nude. It's not too cool, not too warm. It's a perfect balance. It really is my lips but better kind of shade that helps to define the lips without being too intense. Seriously, pair this with a smoky eye and you have got a killer makeup look, in my opinion. The formula itself is creamy and comfortable, it just glides on beautifully, and while you get a nice color payoff with one swipe, it's easily buildable for a richer, medium intensity. It has this beautiful, natural sheen that's luminous but never overly glossy, which perfectly aligns with the Victoria Beckham's chic aesthetic. I absolutely love it. Now, the Gucci Glow and Care Shine lipsticks have a very similar luxurious feel and performance to the Victoria Beckham Posh lipsticks. They both feel super hydrating and comfortable on the lips. However, there's one difference. I actually find the Gucci lipsticks tend to have a bit more glossiness, which truly makes my lips look extra juicy and plump. My personal favorite shade is called Peggy Taupe. Even though it's officially described as a taupe, but on my skin tone, it pulls a muted brown shade with a beautiful, warm, peachy undertone. It literally goes with everything, all types of makeup looks. So for me, it's a total no brainer, everyday staple. Honestly, you really cannot go wrong with either of these formulas. It truly comes down to your personal preference for shades. One important call out is the fragrance. The Gucci lipsticks has a more noticeable and a distinct classic floral scent that adds to its luxurious feel. The Victoria Beckham lipstick, on the other hand, has a very subtle, almost undetectable scent, which is perfect if you're sensitive to fragrances. Now, if you're looking for fantastic performance without the luxury price tag of Gucci, Victoria Beckham, or Hermès, you absolutely have to check out the Merit Signature lipstick. This line offers a beautiful collection of shades, and I have been a fan of this formula ever since it first came out. What sets these apart is that they are not as glossy, shiny as the other lipsticks I've shared so far. Instead, you get a sheer color payoff with a beautiful natural sheen, almost a soft satin finish, which makes them perfect for creating that chic, blotted lip look. You get a diffuse wash of color, and it makes my lips look naturally stained and healthy. It's truly an amazing, comfortable formula that gives you that subtle, modern vibe without breaking the bank. Next up, we have a product that unfortunately just didn't live up to the hype for me: the Bisou Balm Hydrating Lipsticks from Violet FR. I actually picked these up right when the brand first landed at Sephora, and I saw so many people raving about them on social media. But I have to be completely honest, I'm just not one of those people. What initially intrigued me was the unique design of the lipstick bullet. It has this clear balm on the outside with the color pigment placed right in the center. And I think the idea is that it's supposed to create this beautiful, effortless gradient lip look. Sounds amazing, right? However, in my real world experience, this formula feels surprisingly stiff and quite waxy. I found myself having to press pretty hard just to get any color to deposit onto my lips. And instead of that lovely gradient effect, the color actually applied really unevenly, almost clinging to my lips in patches because of that stiff texture. Ironically, for something marketed as a hydrating lipstick or a balm, this is genuinely not a lip product I would ever reach for if my lips were dry or chapped, or if I am looking for something comfortable and nourishing. It just didn't deliver on that balmy, hydrating promise for me at all. Next up, we have a product that I have pretty neutral opinion on. It's the Glossier Ultra Lip High Shine Lipstick. I don't love it, but I certainly don't hate it either. It is marketed as a high shine and comfortable wear lipstick, and they do deliver a decent amount of shine. But honestly, I have found that over time, these aren't quite as moisturizing as I would like them to be, especially now after trying so many incredible, more comfortable, and truly hydrating formulas. I just don't find myself reaching for these as much anymore. My biggest personal drawback with these, and I am not sure if this is just my luck or a common issue, is the packaging. The cap on mine just doesn't stay on. It comes off super easily, which makes carrying it in my bag a bit of a nightmare. For the price, that's a definite bummer. While the price point is pretty good for a high shine lipstick, when I compare it to something like the Merit Signature lipsticks, for example, I feel like I can get better overall performance, hydration, and formula from other brands. While they're not bad, they're definitely not my favorite product from Glossier. All right, so before we jump into our next category of lipsticks, if you're enjoying this video so far and appreciate these honest, straight to the point reviews, swatches, and comparisons, please give this video a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, you might definitely want to subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this one. I would love to have you be a part of our community. All right, let's jump into our bold and beautiful category. And kicking us off is one of my absolute best lip product discoveries of 2025: the Givenchy Rose Perfecto Shine Serum Lipstick. First off, yes, the packaging is undeniably stunning with this leather overshell. But what really blew me away is the formula. This lipstick has a true, beautiful serum like texture on the lips. It's incredibly thin and feels completely weightless, but you get an instant burst of hydration and moisture. It gives you this stunning, almost glossy shine that's sophisticated, not overly wet looking. And here's the cool part, even though the formula is so lightweight and thin, it's highly pigmented. We are talking almost a full lipstick level color payoff. And with that level of shine and pigment, I expected a ton of transfer, but it's surprisingly minimal. In my experience, this lasted a solid 6 to 7 hours of wear on me, even with eating and drinking. Of course, that initial glassy shine will eventually fade a bit, but the pigment, oh, that stays put beautifully. Even when I just do a lighter sheer swipe, the color still lasts and lasts. That, my friend, is a huge win in my book. Compared to the other hydrating formulas like the Gucci Glow and Care or the Victoria Beckham Beauty Posh lipsticks, the Givenchy Rouge Perfecto has a noticeably more serum-like, less creamy or balmy texture. And while those other ones are fantastic and marketed as lipstick, they simply don't deliver anywhere near the same level of pigment as this Givenchy. I am absolutely in love with it. Now, if you love the sound of that Givenchy formula, but you're looking for something a bit more accessible in terms of the price, let me introduce you to a truly underrated product, in my opinion, the Kosas Wet Lipsticks. If you don't want to splurge on Givenchy or even those super luxurious Hermès lipsticks, this is an excellent product to treat yourself without compromising on performance. These are incredibly pigmented. You get an almost full coverage color similar to the Givenchy, but you can share them out for a softer look if you prefer. The formula itself is thin and feels lightweight, yet it's incredibly hydrating and just glides over your lips. It doesn't emphasize lines or texture at all and makes my lip look smooth and plump. Plus, they've got a fantastic color range. In fact, I love this shade 100 degrees. It's a mix of subtle pink and warm beige. Another great natural nudie lip color that just brightens your complexion. I highly recommend these lipsticks. Now, if you're looking for an even more pigmented and intensely glossy formula in a convenient stick format, you're going to love the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb Sticks. Whenever I wear this, I feel like my lips become the center of attention. They just look so glossy and juicy, truly a showstopper. Of course, with this kind of highly glossy, wet finish formula, you will naturally experience a lot more transfer. But because they are so pigmented, even after some transfer, I still have some color left on my lips by the end of the day. It's fantastic for keeping that vibrant look going. Next up, we have the Lisa Aldrich Rouge Refillable Lipsticks. Now, if you have caught my detailed review when these first launch, you might already know this that as much as I love both the shades I picked up, I'm just not a huge fan of this particular formula. It has a beautiful, natural satin finish on the lips. It's not too matte, not too glossy, truly a happy medium, which I appreciate. However, my biggest concern with this formula is that it feels like it just sits on top of my lips instead of melting seamlessly into them. And as a result, it unfortunately ends up accentuating a lot of my natural lip lines. It's a bummer because while I love that it has buildable color so I can customize the intensity, I find I really need to heavily prep my lips, exfoliate, and wear a good lip balm underneath just to ensure it doesn't continue to settle into those lip lines throughout the day. I know Lisa Aldrich has a huge fan following, and this is a product that a lot of people absolutely adore. I myself like a lot of her other products, but for me personally, this formula just doesn't hit the mark in terms of comfortable wear and how it looks on my lips. Moving on, here is a product that's actually very similar in performance and even in the name to the last one, the Dior Rouge Refillable Lipstick in the satin finish. Now, while I had some challenges with the Lisa Eldridge formula, I find Dior's version to be even more hydrating and incredibly comfortable to wear. Compared to the Lisa Aldrich, this Dior lipstick has a really nice slip to it and it feels noticeably more emollient. Perhaps that's why it just melts beautifully into my lips instead of sitting on top, so it doesn't accentuate any of my lip texture or lines at all. And when it comes to longevity, it lasts for a solid 7 to 8 hours on me, which is pretty fantastic for a comfortable satin lipstick. Overall, I prefer Dior over the Lisa Eldridge lipsticks. Alright, now let's talk about another lipstick in my collection that feels less like a makeup item and more like a piece of art. A true collectible object. We are talking about the Guerlain Rouge satin lipstick. Seriously, every single time I pull this out of my bag, without a fail, someone will ask me, "What is that?" And I totally get why. I mean, look at these cases. I picked out two for myself and they're just gorgeous. When these first launched and I placed my order directly from Guerlain's website, I'll be honest, I was almost certain that this lipstick would be all about the packaging. I didn't really have any high expectations for the formula itself. But, oh my goodness, I was so wrong. This is, without a doubt, the thinnest satin lipstick in my entire collection. It's so incredibly thin and lightweight on the lips that it creates this beautiful, almost watercolor like effect, similar to how a sheer matte lip tint applies, but with that gorgeous satin sheen. I absolutely adore it. Because it's not super pigmented in one go, I can actually wear some really bold colors without them looking too bold on my lips, which is fantastic for versatility. And here's another surprise. I am genuinely surprised by its blurring effect on the lips. It somehow minimizes the look of lines and imperfections. In terms of performance, it's very comparable to the Dior Rouge satin lipstick that we just talked about. But I find that the Guerlain has a touch more of that blurring effect. It feels even thinner, and it's perhaps just a little more slippery on the lips. This one is my favorite when it comes to unique satin formulas. It's a collectible item that actually performs, so I also bought one for my mom, and she was super happy about it, which makes me happy. Moving on, let's talk about these Charlotte Tilbury Kissing Satin Shine lipsticks. Now, we all know that Charlotte Tilbury is known for her incredibly comfortable matte lipstick formulas, right? Well, in my experience, her Kissing Satin Finish formula is actually pretty similar to her famous matte in terms of overall feel and performance. You get that same beautiful creaminess, that same reliable wear time, and a really nice moderate pigment level. The main difference? It's just slightly shiny. Not super glossy or wet looking like some of the others we have discussed, but just a comfortable luminous satin finish. One thing to note is the scent. These do have a sweet, almost vanilla like fragrance, which is a little more noticeable compared to, let's say, the subtle scent of the Dior satin lipsticks. I have seen a couple of posts on social media buzzing about the shade Icon Baby. A lot of people felt it was a bit drawing or somehow different from her regular satin formula. I can confirm that Icon Baby does have some very fine shimmer in it, which might contribute to a slightly different feel for some. However, in my experience, and I bought mine just about 3 months ago, I personally don't find it to be drastically different from her regular kissing formula in terms of comfort or performance. Overall, I really like her satin formulas just as much as I like her mattes. It really boils down to finding those shades that you prefer, whether they are in her iconic matte collection or these lovely satins. Alright, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about another fantastic formula that I feel is truly an underrated gem and just doesn't get the attention it deserves: the Hourglass Unlock Satin Cream Lipsticks. Now, if you love these Charlotte Tilbury Kissing Satin Lipsticks, you will definitely appreciate these. But I actually think that the Hourglass formula takes it up a notch. It's slightly more creamy and just a touch more hydrating on the lips than the Charlotte Tilbury. And honestly, you might not even pick up on this difference unless you have very chapped lips like mine. But for someone like me, that extra boost of comfort makes a real difference. The Hourglass formula also has a little more glide and a beautiful slip to it, so it feels even more lightweight on the lips compared to the Charlotte Tilbury kissing lipsticks. You can truly tell the difference once it's on. In terms of glossiness and wear time, they're quite similar to the Charlotte Tilbury, offering that lovely luminous satin finish that lasts well. And for those of you sensitive to scents, this is a winner. I genuinely cannot detect any scent in these, which is a huge plus for many. This is another fantastic option to try. Next up, I have two lipsticks that are incredibly similar in performance, but with very different price points. We are talking about the Sarah Krill Hydrating Lipstick and the MAC Maximal Sleek Satin Lipstick. Both of these lipsticks have a beautiful, glossy finish and feel hydrating on the lips. They actually give me about 5 to 6 hours of wear, even with some eating and drinking. And then they fade beautifully with no patchy color left behind, which is awesome. Now, the Sarah Krill formula is slightly more thicker and creamier. I actually prefer to share it out a bit with my fingers. Otherwise, it can look a little too opaque and lipstick like for my personal preference. One thing to keep in mind for both of these formulas is that because they are so glossy and pigmented, you will get some transfer when you're eating or drinking. It's definitely not a deal breaker for me, especially since they still give me such a great wear time, but it's just something to be aware of. Ultimately, Sarah Krill is a luxury makeup brand. So if you're not looking to splurge quite that much, the MAC Maximal Satin lipsticks are amazing, more affordable alternative that delivers very similar results. Another very similar formula to the MAC Maximal Satin lipsticks is the Makeup by Mario Satin lipstick. I find them to be truly identical. In my experience, they both deliver that beautiful, creamy satin finish that's just so comfortable on the lips. You get that fantastic color payoff, they feel hydrating, and they glide on effortlessly. If you're a fan of that classic, comfortable satin lip that just looks polished and chic, both of these are great. It just depends on what shade you like and which brand you prefer to shop from. Another one from MAC, we have the MAC Lusterglass lipstick. Compared to the Maximal Satin lipstick, this one has a much more balm like feel to it. So it feels much more nourishing on the lips. It also provides a much more sheer but buildable wash of color compared to the Maximal Satins. You still get that glassy high shine effect that makes your lip look so juicy and plump, but with a little less color payoff. I think it is that effortless throw on the go type of lipstick when you want comfort, hydration, and a touch of luminous color. And lastly, let's talk about a lipstick that unfortunately just didn't work out for me personally, the Bobbi Brown Crushed Lip Color. Now, this formula is known for giving that beautiful, blurred, stained lip look, which I really appreciate. The idea is to mimic that just blotted, diffuse wash of color, and it certainly delivers on that aesthetic. However, where it fell short for my lips is in the comfort level. It is marketed as a hydrating, balm like formula, but I found it to be not very moisturizing at all. In fact, it often left my lips feeling pretty dry over time. On top of that, I experienced issues with the application itself. It wasn't a smooth glide for me, and I noticed it tend to separate on my lips, which is definitely not the look I'm going for. So while I love the idea of that soft, blurred effect, the Bobbi Brown crushed lip color just didn't hit the mark for me. I much prefer the Merit signature lipsticks to create that same effect on my lips in a much more comfortable formula. All right, my friends, that wraps up today's video. I really hope this video was helpful for you in navigating all the different formulas and finding some new favorites or alternatives. Let me know in the comments below if you would like me to do a top 5 or top 10 video on the matte lipsticks in my collection. I'm very picky and don't love a lot of matte formulas, but I do have a few exceptions that are worth talking about. Before you go, please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and, of course, subscribe for more honest beauty related videos like this one. I hope you all stay safe and healthy out there, and I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.